Hey, it's Clay at claytrader.com. This is my top 10 stocks as we head into Monday, May 13th. This will be a technical analysis breakdown. So if you're somebody that uses charts within your trading, or maybe you're just interested in learning more about charts and how they can be used as a tool to make good decisions as a trader, this will be a video for you. And also, if you trade Bitcoin, I will do a bonus analysis at the end. Real quick, before I get started, one clarification. I'll be using the 30-minute time frame, so that's what that 30 is representing, and that just means that each one of these candlesticks here represents 30 minutes worth of time. So ticker symbol number 1, NVAX. Big mover today, and a little tricky to talk about because it depends on perspective. What do I mean by that? Well, if you're some sort of day trader, flipper, scalper, whatever you want to call yourself, and you're buying up around there and you wanted to buy and sell within 10 minutes, well, then from that perspective, yeah, things are looking pretty rough because there was a bigger pullback that happened today. There's no doubt about that. But if you do care about the bigger picture point of view, there's actually a nice little pattern here that has taken shape. So let me get this drawn into play. So we have our resistance portion of it. We have our support portion down there. Let me change that to green to represent more so a support. And then maybe just make it easier to see. Let's keep it all one color. So we have our area of resistance. We have our support. We have the huge move up right here. And if you golfers try to make it a little bit more visual, put a golf hole down here. This would be a bull pennant pattern. Now there are no guarantees, but my point here is it valid? Is it plausible to think that if the price were able to work its way back up here and get the break right there, that break in of itself could create additional buying pressure? That is certainly not a guarantee, but it is a more than valid thought process. So big mover today on NVAX. Again, I understand if you're a day trader and you bought right here, you don't care about this bull pennant pattern, but that's why I'm trying to distinguish between more of a day trader and somebody that cares about the big picture point of view. But if you like bull pennant patterns, then certainly keep an eye on it. Next one, LIDR. Very, very impressive move today. And overall, good, solid, volume, all that you want to see within a tradable stock. So first thing, let's just focus on some potential supports and pullback areas for those of you that like to place pullback. So right there, $2.29, again, change that to green to represent support, is an interesting level here because if you think about it, even if the price were to come down to that area and kind of just consolidate out, overall what you'd have is just a big old bull flag, bull pennant pattern, if you think about what we just looked at on the first one there. So there's nothing wrong at all with a pullback, especially when you have the overall trend of things still very clearly within the upwards direction. So 229, I think, in my opinion, at least becomes a very interesting level. In terms of levels of resistance, nothing fancy here, no complicated logic, just a question of where did the party finally stop today? And essentially that stopped right up here around $3.10. I realize I'm not using the total high, but in my opinion, if the price can reach back up to that area and then break it with a high volume break, again, no guarantees, but I think you got a good chance that it gets up to those highs and then pushes up through those. But anyway, look at it. If you like this price range and you like good volatility, this one definitely gives all of that. Next one, DNA, very rough mover today. But what catches my eye on this one is just the fact that after getting beat down, and you can see there's this nasty trend line right here, that the price has actually now been able to push up through it. So right there you can see late afternoon, got the break, and even after the break, started to show some strength by working its way upwards. Now, to be fair, this may not mean anything. This may just be a simple dead cat bounce, and it may just completely plunge back downwards. That's why risk management matters. But that is a two-sided coin because, maybe it is the start of something bigger, and the next week this thing is going to skyrocket to the upside. So that's what a watch is all about, finding unique, finding interesting situations, not rushing out and randomly buying stuff, but at least watching it and seeing things, how they play out. So got the nice break here, got some upwards movement, got a good solid amount of volume that last 30 minutes. So is this the start of an even bigger bounce? If you like these sorts of scenarios, then definitely keep an eye on DNA. Next one here, SOUN, very brutal day. And once again, that does go back to perspective for you day traders, that were buying up there. Hopefully you had a stop loss because that's a very nasty pullback from right there. But from the bigger picture, now it becomes an interesting scenario, especially if you like to play pullbacks because the price has now gotten very close within the range of that purple line right there, which on my chart denotes the very well-known, the very famous 50-period moving average. And then on top of that, if I put in this former area of resistance right here, and then factor in the just rule that when levels of resistance are broken and closed above, they tend to act as support. You can see that this 495 mark is essentially the same exact value as that purple line right there, that 50-period moving average. So as I've said, and we'll say probably a dozen more times, there are no guarantees, but it is certainly plausible to think that the price could come down here, find some support, and then get a bounce in that upwards direction. So you got to manage that risk, but from a risk-reward scenario, You know, if you take the loss and it's controlled, oh well. But if you get some sort of bounce and turnaround, even if it's not a total reversal, but just a bounce, like I said, you could be looking at a very favorable situation. Next one, MARA, brutal day, and then you factor in the last 30 minutes. And yeah, look at that last 30 minutes, a brutal final 30 minutes. But within that, been a very popular stock, and all things considered, you can see right here, it's still actually, higher than where it was not that long ago. So it's not like the chart is totally destroyed. Now, is it starting to show some signs of weakness? Absolutely, but I would not go as far to say, oh, this thing's totally ruined. But it's starting to get to that territory where it's like, okay, you want to see things start to level out. And that's where 1710 comes into play. If you go back here, you can see that it was a former area of support right there, was a resistance a couple times too. So again, good example of resistance acting as support. And that's essentially right where the price ended, which brings about, I think, the main question a lot of people are going to be asking, can this $17.10 mark hold? Or if it doesn't, then that's where things could really spin out of control, because now you're starting to push the price back into this area, which you can see this big void space until you get down around here. So again, not saying that's what's going to occur, but just trying to explain why I would say 1710, very, very important level moving forward. If the price does try to bounce, then just keep an eye on that pink line up there, that 200 period moving average. But at this point in time, one hurdle at a time, and the main priority for me at least is just maintaining above that 200 period moving, maintaining above 1710, and then worrying about that the 200 period moving average. Real quick, want to take a quick break and personally invite you to get signed up for this free live online webinar that I'm offering next week. So if you've been enjoying what you've seen and you want to learn more about this tool, how it can and should be used to build consistency and manage risk, then definitely get signed up for the free live event next week. If you're watching on YouTube, there's a link down in the description box you can use, or if you're watching at my site, there's an area right there on the webpage that you can use to get signed up. So like I said, if you've been enjoying, then definitely get signed up for the free webinar. Next one here, PLTR, and we have an interesting pattern. In fact, one that I always find very intriguing, and it sounds a little counterintuitive, but we have our area of support right there. And then we have our area of resistance right there. So change that to red. And this would be a falling wedge pattern. Now, you may think a falling wedge is bearish, but actually a falling wedge is bullish. So, and a rising wedge would be a bearish one. But it's really as straightforward as that, is if you're someone that likes falling wedge patterns and you like this price range, then I would definitely keep an eye on PLTR. So no need to overcomplicate it. If you like falling wedges, then PLTR definitely fits that script. Next, NKLA, and popular one that got beat down pretty bad today, which does still make it an interesting situation for those of you that like to try to catch those that come off the bottom. And I think a trend line that you got to think a lot of people are potentially watching right there at that level. If you want to be a little bit more aggressive, then you could definitely keep an eye on, this area right here in terms of a little miniature area of resistance. But I'm just trying to keep things more so from an overarching standpoint. And that's where I think, like that trend line right there comes into play and makes the most sense. So keep an eye on those couple dynamics. And who knows? I mean, if you really wanted to, you could just try to scalp from here up to right there. But that's all definitely a matter of your personal strategy in regards to that. As far as supports, no fancy logic here. Previously, we talked about one where, where did the party stop for the bulls? In this situation, just a question of where did the bleeding finally stop? And the bleeding finally stopped right there at about 53 cents. So that, for no fancy reasoning other than that's just where the bleeding stopped. So 53 will be that key level that you want to see hold strong, and that could also potentially serve as a bounce point. Next one, NIO, and same general idea here as some of these past ones, so I don't want to linger on it too long because you've heard me say this, but we have a trend line right here that can be drawn as a support. And then on the flip side of things, we have a resistance line right there. Now, I'm not going to call this as good of a looking of a falling wedge as what PLTR had, but I would still consider this a falling wedge pattern. But I would completely understand if you're like, yeah, I like PLTR a whole lot better. Fair enough. But that still doesn't take away from the fact that both are falling wedge patterns. So if you like falling wedges, then definitely keep an eye on this. Because if it can get up to that trend line and then push up through it, it is NIO. It does have the ability to move and move very quickly. So could be certainly an interesting situation here next week. Next, TSLA Tesla, and not a good day at all. Not necessarily because it was red, but because it broke down through that pink line there, that 200 period moving average. And from a technical point of view, that's just never a good sign. Now, the good news is it's not like it totally collapsed and kept bleeding. it did at least start to go sideways, which does not guarantee that it's done going down, but it sure makes it a whole lot more plausible. Case in point, if the price was still just dropping straight down, and I'm sitting here saying, hey, it's looking like this could be the bottom, you'd be totally justified to say, wait, what are you talking, based on what? The price is literally going straight down. But that's not the case here. It has started to go sideways. So again, that doesn't mean that it is the bottom, but it makes it a very plausible scenario to throw out there that maybe Tesla and, enough buyers have stepped in, and they'll, consolidate out a little bit more before getting some sort of bounce in the upwards direction. If there is any sort of bounce, definitely public enemy number one becomes that pink line, 200 period moving average. So keep an eye on that. And then as far as areas of support are concerned, it's all about where the price started to go sideways, which happens to be right there at 167.70. And then just to offer up a bit more perspective, if the price breaks down below there, then it starts to enter into the territory that it hasn't seen for several weeks. So definitely a bigger pullback here. Rough start, but with the sideways movement, that certainly makes it interesting headed into next week. Next one, TQQQ, and one of these, again, where it's all about perspective, so I'll go through it very quickly. For you day traders that were buying right there, wanting to buy and sell within 7 minutes, yes, not a good looking chart for you at all. But if you care about the bigger picture point of view, beautiful action. What do I mean by that? Well, if you've been watching the past videos, you know that I've been talking about that purple line there, the 50 period moving average as a key area of support. And I mean, check it out. Look how it beautifully honored it. Once, twice, 3 times has honored that level. So that's a very nice sign in and of itself to see how it's respecting that 50 period moving average. So yes, not a great day, assuming you bought up there. But if you care about just the overall health, the overall trend of things, certainly a very healthy day from that angle. And then in terms of areas of resistance, nothing fancy, just, where did the sellers step in? And they stepped in during that earlier part of the day, right up here around that 59.90 mark. So keep an eye on that moving forward. But like I said, I realize it can sound crazy to call today and say, hey, that this was actually an impressive day. But in my mind, it was an impressive day just because of how well it respected that 50 period moving average. So if that continues to happen next week, then you got to think that the bulls are going to be having pretty big smiles. Now, for you Bitcoin traders, I'll get to Bitcoin here in just a second. But for you stock traders, if you enjoyed what you saw here and you want to learn more, then definitely, like I said, go get signed up for the class. It'll be next week, Thursday, May 16th at 7 p.m. Eastern time. So like I said, go get signed up right now. Now let's talk some Bitcoin. Real quick, one disclosure here, or more so clarification. I am now looking at the 4-hour time frame. So each one of these candlesticks here does not represent 30 minutes. It represents 4 hours. And I like to do that because Bitcoin is open 24/7. So that'll keep this analysis relevant for as long as possible. But yeah, since the last update, very, very rough period, especially that 4-hour session right there. Huge flush to the downside. Trying to stabilize out now, but I'm just going to operate under the premise that you're watching this video. Let's call it Sunday afternoon. So you're watching this Sunday afternoon. Question number one that you need to ask yourself is, where does the price reside? Where is it currently at relative to 60,000 right there? If you're answering the question that the price is down below 60,000, then it becomes very basic. Okay, well, how far down below it? And the further down below it, that is just telling you the more strength the bears have obtained since I've done this video. So in other words, it's a very bearish weekend if you're answering the question that the price is down below there. Again, how bearish of a weekend? Well, how far down below the $60,000 mark is it? And if somehow you're answering, and I would be shocked, but if you're answering the question that the price is actually down below these lows over here, then that would be a massive red flag. There's something that has gone wrong over the weekend if you were to be answering the question that the price not only down below 60,000, but also this area here. Again, I doubt you're answering the question that the price is down below that one, but nonetheless, still want to mention it. Now, maybe you're saying, no, Clay, actually the price is still above 60,000. So that in and of itself is a good sign, because that means that bare minimum, the bleeding has stopped, and there's just some sort of consolidation going on. But if somehow you're saying, well, actually, Clay, the price not only above 60,000, it's up above that purple line right there, that would be a very, very good sign, because that would be implying that not only has the downward movement stopped, but it's also recovered enough to get back up above what could potentially be a key area of resistance. So walk yourself through those questions, and that'll keep Bitcoin relevant all weekend long. And just as I invited the stock traders, I'm inviting you as a Bitcoin and crypto trader, because what you'll learn about in this class, good thing it's Friday, definitely can and should be used within your trading as far as Bitcoin and crypto is concerned. So again, it'll be Thursday, May 16th at 7 p.m. Eastern time. So go get signed up. If you appreciate these top 10 videos, hit that like button, leave a comment down below. If you have a request for something you'd like for me to do a review of in the future, like I said, you can leave that request down there too. But go get signed up for that free training, and have a great weekend.